The lights dim as the camera zooms in on a stormy scene. Rain pouring down in sheets, lightning flashing across a dark sky. The tension in the air is palpable. A voice echoes over the sound of the downpour. What happens when you try to corner someone who refuses to be trapped? The scene cuts sharply to a sleek, modern newsroom where a tense interview is about to unfold. The camera focuses on Karoline, a poised, sharp-minded political strategist who's been making waves in the media recently. Her gaze is unwavering, locked in on the interviewer sitting across from her. The world is watching. The stakes are high. A heated conversation is about to ignite. Karoline is known for her unwavering confidence. Her backstory, rising from a small town to become one of the most talked-about figures in the political landscape, has inspired many. Today, though, she's facing something different. A relentless reporter, one with a reputation for trying to tear down her defenses, is about to go after her with everything they've got. It's a battle of words, wits, and willpower. As the camera cuts to the reporter, a self-assured, ambitious figure with a reputation for taking down political heavyweights, the tension rises. The reporter's sharp, biting questions are poised to dig deep into Karoline's personal and professional life. But Karoline isn't worried. She's ready for whatever comes her way. And yet, there's a question hanging in the air, one that cuts deeper than anything the reporter could ask. What happens if Karoline doesn't break? The rain continues to lash against the glass windows, mirroring the turmoil of the upcoming confrontation. The camera pulls back slowly as the reporter begins to speak, setting the stage for the first clash in a battle that will test both intellect and endurance. The interview begins. The world is waiting to see if Karoline will remain unshaken. The stakes are higher than ever, and the tension between the two figures is electric. Will she rise to the occasion, or will the storm overwhelm her? The audience is about to find out. The camera focuses on Karoline's face, her expression calm but alert. She takes a steady breath, eyes narrowing slightly as the reporter begins with a question that feels more like a calculated strike than a simple inquiry. You've been called a puppet of the far right. How do you respond to the growing narrative that you're more of a pawn than a player? The words hang in the air like daggers, aimed directly at her integrity. The storm outside rages harder, thunder rumbling in the background as though the world itself is reacting to the question. Karoline doesn't flinch, but something shifts in her eyes, a flicker of anger, the first crack in her otherwise polished exterior. This is no ordinary interview. This isn't just about the questions. It's about a much bigger game, one that could unravel everything Karoline has fought for. Her phone buzzes quietly under the table. She glances at it for only a moment. A message from her close friend and trusted ally Sarah flashes on the screen. They're digging into your past. Don't let them get away with this. Karoline's jaw clenches. The reporter presses on, sensing the opening. But aren't you a little too comfortable with the extremist views of your allies? Doesn't that make you complicit in a dangerous agenda? The words sting like salt in a wound. Karoline leans forward slightly, her eyes locking onto the reporters with a mix of defiance and control. But inside, she's already processing the storm that's brewing. This is more than just an attack on her. It's an attack on her entire career, her legacy, and the very people she's worked with. It's personal. In that moment, Karoline realizes she's not just fighting for her reputation, she's fighting for the truth. And the truth is something she's not willing to let be twisted by media spin. As the reporter waits for her response, a sudden shift in the room makes it clear. Karoline is no longer just answering questions. She's been pushed into a corner and she knows she has to act quickly. The consequences of remaining silent, or worse, giving a half-hearted answer, would be disastrous. But before she can respond, the door to the studio opens unexpectedly. Sarah enters, her face pale, eyes wide with alarm. Without saying a word, Sarah gestures urgently toward Karoline, signaling that something has happened. A piece of information has just been leaked. The stakes have just escalated. In a heartbeat, Karoline understands. The game has changed. This isn't just about holding her ground in the interview. This is about protecting everything she's worked for, and, more importantly, protecting those she loves. Karoline's mind races as Sarah rushes to her side, whispering urgently in her ear, "It's bad. The leaks. They're about you. Your past is out there, and it's a lot worse than we thought." Karoline's heart skips a beat. For a moment, her composure falters, and the room feels colder, the air thicker. The reporter, sensing the shift, leans forward with a knowing smile, his eyes gleaming with the anticipation of victory. "What's this? A little distraction, Karoline? Is that what it takes to break your carefully crafted image?" Karoline's fingers tighten around the armrest, her nails digging into the leather. The storm outside intensifies, the wind howling through the cracks in the building. She forces herself to breathe, to stay calm, but doubt creeps in, threading its way through her thoughts. What exactly is being leaked? What will it reveal? And worse, who is behind it? The studio lights feel harsher now, the weight of the interview pressing down on her like never before. She takes a glance at Sarah, who's standing behind her with a look of concern but also determination. Sarah's loyalty has always been unquestionable, but even she knows how dangerous this moment is. Do we go with the story? Sarah's voice is a whisper, but Karoline knows it's a question that hangs heavy between them. If they deny the leaks, the media will eat them alive. If they confront them head-on, they risk confirming everything the reporter has been hinting at. Either way, the consequences are dire. The reporter doesn't wait for her response. "You've been quiet long enough, Karoline. Everyone's been wondering if the rumors about your involvement with controversial figures are true. But now, with the information we've uncovered, it seems your ties run deeper than anyone imagined. How do you justify that?" Karoline swallows. Hard, the knot in her stomach tightening. The words sting, but worse is the uncertainty she feels rising within her. She's fought too hard to let this derail her, but self-doubt starts to claw at her. What if the leaks are true? What if the connections to people she thought were long buried are exposed to the world? A flash of anger surges through her, sharper than the doubt. No, she thinks, I won't let them take me down like this. Just as she opens her mouth to answer, the room darkens. The power flickers, and then goes out completely. The cameras stop rolling, and the sudden silence is deafening. The storm outside crashes louder than ever, and for the first time in the interview, Karoline feels the full weight of the moment. She's lost control. In the darkness, her mind spins. She has to make a choice now, stand her ground or let the world see her crumble. What she does next will define everything. The room is plunged into darkness. The sounds of the storm intensify, hammering against the windows like a relentless barrage. For a long, heavy moment, the studio is silent. The faint hum of the air conditioning is the only sound in the void. But it feels insignificant, a mere whisper in the chaos of Karoline's mind. She can't see anyone around her, but she can feel the weight of their eyes. The camera is off, but the tension is thicker than ever. It's as if time itself has stopped. What now? Karoline thinks, her pulse pounding in her ears. This blackout, the sudden loss of control, feels like a sign, a warning. Something is coming, and she has to brace herself. Karoline, Sarah's voice cuts through the darkness, soft but urgent. We need to talk. This isn't just about the leaks, it's bigger. Someone's playing us. Karoline's chest tightens. What do you mean? She strains to hear, but all she hears is the sound of Sarah's hurried footsteps in the dark. The leaks aren't random, Sarah continues, her voice growing more frantic. There's a coordinated effort behind this. Whoever's pulling the strings knew exactly when to release this information. They're targeting us, Karoline. This goes deeper than anyone's letting on. Karoline's thoughts whirl, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fall into place. She's always been wary of the undercurrents of politics, the hidden hands that pull at the strings. But this is different. This isn't just about the media or the reporter in front of her. This is about something much darker, something much more dangerous. Who would go this far? The blackness of the room becomes a metaphor for the uncertainty she now faces. She's been pushed into a corner. The reporter's sharp questions, the leaks, they were just the beginning. Karoline realizes now that the game she's playing isn't just about public opinion or political maneuvering. Someone has been quietly orchestrating her downfall from behind the scenes, and she's been unaware of it all this time. Do you trust me? Sarah's voice snaps her out of her thoughts. The tension in the room crackles as Karoline's mind races. I trust you, Karoline replies, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. But even as the words leave her lips, doubt lingers. Trust is a fragile thing, and right now, there's no certainty. The game has shifted. Before she can say another word, the lights flicker back to life, the harsh fluorescent glow illuminating the room once again. The reporter's smirk is gone, replaced by an expression of shock, his eyes darting around the studio as though he, too, feels the shift in the air. Karoline, now fully aware that the stakes are far higher than she'd imagined, locks eyes with him. A new sense of purpose floods through her. She's no longer just reacting to the questions or the attacks. Now, she's taking control of the narrative. She won't let the shadowy figures behind this mess define her fate. "This isn't just about me," Karoline says, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "This is about something much bigger, and I won't let it be twisted by the likes of you." The reporter blinks, momentarily thrown off balance. Karoline's words have hit their mark. But the truth is, she's only just beginning to unravel the full scale of the forces at play. What started as a simple interview has now morphed into a battle for her very survival. The storm outside rages, but Karoline knows she's no longer just weathering the storm. She's about to become the storm. The room crackles with an energy that feels almost tangible. The lights, now fully restored, seem to amplify the tension, hanging in the air. Karoline stands, her posture firm, eyes locked on the reporter, her once unshakable adversary, now standing on the edge of uncertainty. For the first time in this interview, it's clear that Karoline is in control. The storm outside mirrors the one inside her. She feels the weight of everything she's fought for. Her career, her friends, her principles, bearing down on her. But this isn't just about fighting back against a reporter's loaded questions. This is about something far bigger. She's caught in a political maelstrom, and it's not just her reputation on the line. Someone's trying to take everything from me, she thinks, her pulse quickening. The reporter doesn't flinch. His jaw tightens, but there's a flicker of something else. Something like recognition in his eyes. Karoline knows he's realizing that this interview has transformed from a simple power struggle into a high-stakes battle. But there's more to it than just him. The larger forces, those unseen hands pulling the strings, are still lurking in the shadows. They think they've cornered her, but they've miscalculated. Karoline isn't just a player in their game. She's about to rewrite the rules. "You think you've got me figured out," Karoline says, her voice sharp and unwavering. "You think this is about some personal vendetta, about who's pulling my strings, but you're wrong. This is about something else entirely." The reporter opens his mouth to respond, but Karoline cuts him off, her voice growing louder, stronger. "You're not the one controlling this narrative. I am. And I'm done letting people like you dictate the story." Her words hang in the air, heavy with defiance. For a moment, she allows the silence to settle, letting the weight of her message sink in. But there's no time to waste. The battle is far from over. The door to the studio opens abruptly, and a man enters, slick-haired, wearing a suit that screams power and influence. He's someone Karoline recognizes, but never thought she would see here, not like this. It's Marcus Carter, a political consultant who's been tied to some of the most controversial figures in the game. A man with a reputation for being ruthless. Karoline's stomach tightens. So, it's him. The puppet master behind the leaks. The shadow that has been pulling the strings all along. He doesn't speak at first, just stands there, his gaze scanning the room with an unsettling calmness. Karoline's pulse accelerates, but she doesn't look away. The tension between them crackles, thickening the air. "I've seen enough," Marcus finally says, his voice smooth but laced with an edge. "You think you can control this? You're just a pawn, Karoline. Always have been." The words hit her like a punch, but she doesn't flinch. This is it. The final confrontation, the moment everything hinges on. Karoline steps forward, her eyes never leaving his. "You're wrong," she says, her voice low but fierce. "I've been playing the game long enough to know that nothing stays hidden forever. And I'm done letting you call the shots. You've underestimated me, Marcus. And that's going to be your downfall." The room seems to freeze. Time slows for a moment as the weight of those words hangs between them. Karoline is no longer the vulnerable target she was at the beginning of the interview. She's something far more dangerous, a force determined to rewrite the narrative. With a steady breath, she turns her back on him, facing the reporter once again, her resolve unshakable. "I'm done being the one who's hunted. Now it's your turn." The reporter's face pales. He realizes too late that he's no longer in control of the story. The power has shifted, and Karoline is now the one in charge of her fate. As the camera pans out, the storm outside reaches its peak, a fitting metaphor for the final explosive moment of Karoline's journey. She's not just surviving anymore. She's fighting back, and the stakes have never been higher. The game has changed, and Karoline is about to win. The days that followed the explosive interview were a whirlwind of media frenzy and political maneuvering, but Karoline remained resolute. The storm outside had eventually subsided, but the storm within her had only just begun to calm. Marcus Carter, the puppet master who had been lurking in the shadows, was exposed for his role in the leaks. As more details surfaced, it became clear that he had been orchestrating a web of deceit, using the media and even some of Karoline's closest allies to manipulate public opinion. His carefully constructed empire of influence crumbled under the weight of the truth. Karoline, however, wasn't concerned with his downfall. What mattered to her was the impact of the story she had told, the narrative she had taken back into her own hands. She had faced the harshest of questions, the most personal attacks, but instead of shrinking away, she had fought back, using every ounce of her strength to reveal the truth and expose the corruption that lay beneath the surface. As the media moved on to the next scandal, Karoline took a moment to reflect. The journey had been exhausting, but it had also been transformative. She'd gone from being a target, a political pawn, to someone who understood the true nature of power. It wasn't about control. It wasn't about winning the game. It was about the ability to define your own story, to take back what was yours. Sarah had been by her side through it all, unwavering in her support. They sat together one evening, watching the final broadcast of Karoline's interview, now re-edited and recontextualized. The world had witnessed her defiance, her strength, and her willingness to stand up for what was right. "You did it," Sarah said softly, her eyes full of admiration. "You didn't just survive. You won." Karoline smiled, though there was a tiredness in her eyes that only Sarah could understand. It wasn't about winning. It was about standing up when it felt like everything was against me. It was about telling the truth, even when they tried to bury it. The room was quiet for a moment as they both let the weight of those words settle. Karoline knew there would always be more battles to face, more forces to challenge. But for the first time in a long time, she felt at peace with herself. She had done what she needed to do. The phone buzzed on the table, a message from an unknown number. Karoline picked it up, her finger hovering over the screen before she tapped it open. The message read, "The real battle is just beginning. You're not alone." Karoline's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. The game had shifted. She had become the storm, and there was no turning back. As she looked out the window, the world beyond seemed still, calm, yet full of possibility. And as the sun set behind the horizon, Karoline knew one thing for sure. The next chapter had already begun.